frequency of 52 megacycles by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. A test program follows. To you who've been trained technically, I need hardly say that there's still a number of problems to solve. I guess you know them as well as anybody knows them. But I think we've proceeded far enough to justify the statement, at least, that these technical problems are not insurmountable.
The third deck.
Moving to the red matchup, we'll have Woody cover the KiP deck again, Fatima, Breadway, Sycophant.
Sure. So this is a 56 SAS Worlds Collide, and the first thing that my eyes go to are the double Kirby's Blaster. The double Kirby and Starlines, which is just, it's so cool. Like, I don't even know if it's really that great, but it's so cool to have two of them. And if you're, obviously you have two of the Kirbys, two of the Blasters, the odds of pulling them in the same hand are much greater. And then the fact that you have two Chief Engineer walls is like, you can play those Blasters if you get them early, and you're going to get them back in your hand when you need to put them on Kirby to start drawing two and to start playing out of house stuff, which just seems unfair. You know, it's like a pretty like evenly designed deck as far as like creature count and stuff like that. Like, I kind of wish it had more actions and more artifacts to like really max out the Kirby stuff, but we are in a SAS cap event, so you're not going to get that necessarily. But like moving, like using the Kirbys to move along the shadows and the Brobnar, I think is pretty unfair. Like, if you're doing like Kirby into, you know, double subtle chain stuff, like that's extremely like there's no response at this SAS level. Yeah, the shadows is really nice. Like I was saying, with the double subtle chain, with the chain gang, if you can pull that off. I mean, that's a combo that I have in like a 74 SAS deck that I love doing at that level. You know what I mean? It's like having it at 58 is pretty great. Chimera Eclipse, Hit and Run, Inky Gloom, these are just like solid kind of stalwarts of Shadows Worlds Collide. That it's nice to have that in the house. And Spike Trap to do some creature control if needed.
If I could jump in before you move to the Brobnar, just it's just something I've been thinking a lot about rigged lottery.
I was about to say that, actually.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Because once you said something, I was like, oh yeah, I missed the rigged lottery. And that's just a fantastic card, frankly. But in a deck like this, though, where you're kind of digging into it with the Kirbys and stuff like that, that's one of those things where you get a little speed and you disrupt their deck, and they don't have any shadows, and that just feels, again, that could be a big play, and you could be cheating into it with the Star Alliance, which is pretty nice.
That disruption is just so kind of significant, in my opinion. It's just so cool. But yeah, I'll let you cover the Brobnar.
Well, yeah, and again, like thinking of Rig Lottery getting paired with two subtle chains, it's like, how is this deck less than 58 SAS? Like, there's like so much of is just taking cards out of your opponent's hand, out of their deck. It's just like not fair. The Brobnar is actually, you know, it's gonna tell you that it's like low SAS or whatever, but I actually quite like having a Brobnar design like this, where you're getting a good amount of effective power that you're lacking in the rest of the deck. Like, it feels bad when you have Brobnar and then you have a bunch of like beefed up Saurian that can kind of do the same thing anyways. But here the Brobnar is giving you a lot of effective power with Ragnarok, which I think, you know, that plus Blood Money plus Barn Raising. That's pretty like, if you can imagine a full Ragnarok barn raising play.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of a lot, where your opponent's losing one each time you fight, and you're gaining one each time you fight, and then everything is destroyed at the end no matter what the result. It's a massive play. Like, you know, you're swinging it for so much amber in a deck that's got 19 creatures. If you're pulling that off late in the game with a bunch of readied stuff, that's pretty messed up.
It ain't bad. It ain't bad. So I'll move to Thespian Kagami here, which is the Midwest Martians needs Amber deck. It's a Saurian Untamed deck, and you know it. I don't mean this in a derogatory way, right? But like when you first read this list, there is sort of nothing special about this deck. In what I mean is like there's no like special like mega trick, right? But what it does do is it's going to put double Legatus Raptor on the board, taunted by a Brutodon. There's a Shrix, there's a Pompatus. What this is just like an unbelievably good Saurian in low SAS to just play beatdown, you know, caveman Keyforge here, right? Failing Strike to do some creature removal and a stomp. We're talking about just a Saurian line that can just become so powerful very, very quickly. And you could totally see how the game could get away from anybody at low SAS against that Saurian. There is this triple misery exploit with a Festering Touch. Festering Touch paired with it, obviously you can get some Amber. Failing Strike can distribute some damage. They're not going to go off for much. They seem like one of the lower points of the deck, but they could go off for something. But most likely you're going to be discarding them using the E on the fringes, you know, just to do some stealing. You've got a Library of the Damned to potentially stock some of that play. And then finally, I'll say that there's a Harbinger and an Onyx Knight, both of which are going to give you board removal options in Dis, Binding Irons to slow them down. So it's like you have your Saurian. If you're winning on board, you're basically just going to reap them to death and beat down everything. If you're not winning on board, you have ways to recover board, and there's, you know, a limited way to steal with EE on the fringes, even though there's barely any Amber control in this deck. Now, moving to the Untamed, this is where this like synergy really comes in. Like I said, this whole game, you're trying to establish this Saurian board by clearing your opponent's board with the Dis, setting up things, and of course the Saurian is going to set itself up just how big the creatures are and how many there are. The Untamed is going to exploit that kind of massively through double Ghost Hawk with a key charge and like a Fog Bank, right? The Fog Bank is going to solidify your line, make it hard to fight, make it hard to remove. Double Ghost Hawk is going to cash in any existing line for, you know, 2 reaps each. In this deck, you're most likely tossing the Kangafant. I could imagine maybe you play it and then just reap with it first to kill it. But because you have the double Ghost Hawk, you might be tossing that a lot. Nawbil is going to be doing a little bit of artifact removal, which is really, really nice. Rustnar is also going to be able to do that. And of course you have Yaga, which is going to give you Skirmish. So again, I talked on like first blush, there's not like a mega trick to this deck. The trickiest thing I can find in it is that you have the Yaga giving you Skirmish, and then you've got the double Legatus Raptor, which is going to do like, you can do this readying, and you can rule of six the Legatus Raptors potentially. But really it's like, I'm going to win on board, I'm going to cash it in with my Ghost Hawks, I'm going to key charge out my key. I'm not expecting to win on Amber control, I'm just going to dominate board. Now, looking at our specific matchup here, this is a tough one for me, so I'll let Woody have first crack at it.
Yeah, this is interesting. I see this matchup actually kind of coming down to the Saurian and Thespian versus kind of the rest of Fatima. And I say that because, like, if you're getting early Odoak and protecting it and they can't steal, you shut off a sort of minor point of their deck, but like a good one nonetheless. Because I think you do need a little bit of that Amber control swing. I worry that you feed the board clears of the Volcano and the Ragnarok if you're putting too much Amber on your Saurian stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think part of the sort of ethos of this Saurian is to have Amber on itself, because of the Tribune Pompatus.
Right.
But the unfortunate thing about Ragnarok is that it doesn't care about it. I mean, and there's no warding. There's just the one Scudam, so you gotta decide who you're putting that on. But yeah, that's kind of
Right. Yeah, no, I mean that's interesting is like, yeah, so I mean your kind of thought on it is that this Saurian runs into a bad Brobnar and it's gonna be hard for the Saurian to do its thing. So I mean and I'm looking at the C in Fatima and just thinking about like the quality of it. The draw of the Star Alliance is big. For me, it's actually the edge that Fatima has is just the straight up speed, like the ability to card draw. Also, of course, the ability to discard cards from the hand, disrupt the deck. Like, if you play that Rig Lottery and you hit some of those big Saurian creatures, this game is over. And I mean, like, over.
Right.
That being said, when some degree of board is established, like, your C is somewhat limited. You have one board clear, right? So, like, if it's gone, it's gone. And I can imagine a game that gets away from it at Thespian. I'd still give it like a, like 70-30 for Fatima, surely on the fact that we're looking at 9 pips versus 8 pips. Like, we're not looking at, neither deck is this like massive amber generator. Thespian, all of its amber is coming from its board. Fatima is going to be able to play a little more naturally. Like, essentially, the reason I go like 70-30 Fatima is it's going to be drawing its cards. It's going to have more control over when it plays its stuff, and then Thespian is going to be disrupted in the order that it plays its stuff. Like, if both decks were playing ideally, like with their perfect hands, I don't know who wins, but I think that Fatima has more ways to get there, personally.
I think that that's right, and I think also there are a couple of really specific, matchup-specific elements that are kind of lean towards Fatima. One is like Galactic Senses could go off for the full 3 amber. Also, really unfortunate that Fatima doesn't have a Dis house where EE could be purging your stuff instead of its own stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think actually like the triple misery exploit, like those are great sort of to feed the EE with in this matchup, but like generally there's some matchup specific things you just kind of look at and think that's really unfortunate. Like I also think the fog bank in Thespian is great. I would trade that Kangafant for another one. Like that would really, I think, send it over the edge if you have multiple turns where you're not allowing fight to happen, because you're right that the C in Fatima is not great. It's not super dynamic. It's really basically all in the Brobnar house. And if you're going Brobnar, you're not doing the Kirby stuff.
Right. Yeah, you're not doing the kind of crazier things, but yeah. So I mean, like we have like an edge, like I'd say somewhere between like 60-40, 70-30 for Fatima, but overall, looking at these matchups, it seems like KiP kind of has the edge based on what they kind of brought, the matchups that are there. There seems to be this ethos of kind of just running away with the game before these kind of matchup specific things could be a problem. So it's like, we looked at that one matchup, it's like, oh, barehanded could be really bad, but it's also like I'm generating so much before that might even come down.
Right.
So we'll end it there. But any closing thoughts other than I think that I would lean KiP here.
No, yeah, I agree. But also just at this SAS level, it's really cool to see all these decks. Like truly, of all 6 of these decks, like I feel like I don't have anything at that level, that SAS level, that's so interesting. Quite frankly, like sort of weird house combos that we're seeing, doing really interesting things at the SAS level. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, fantastic decks. So enjoy the show.
And we're back for the final get. So here we go on to the final match. Let's see what we've got here. Wow, that's an interesting Star Alliance from Ugluk, who's a KiP, but Grishhammer from Midwest Martians need Amber have the Dis turn at Sturma. Istramo is coming down first. But that's going to be a Star Alliance turn with a Blaster, Confidence of Kirby. And no, it's not. Oh yeah, Confidence goes to play Hit and Run. Sorry, of course. And there we go. Confidence Kirby down. With Blasters in place. What a starting Star Alliance turn. So jumping over the Dis from the active player of Grishhammer. What's it going to come back with? Well, there goes, what's it called? First Officer Frame, so that's the Capture 1 Star Alliance officer. And now we see the Onyx Knight come down. Officer Kirby's gone. It's not a bad retort. 4 amber. And we come into the Broken come down. So Stilton goes down first. Groke 9 Toes goes down. And then finally Groke goes down as well. So interesting to see how this is going to be a response for the 2/2/2 hands. Not great. So he starts off with a Dis, reaping with Onyx Knight, plays Misery Exploit to gain 2 amber, and does not finish with you comes down. So that gets into 8. He's on check. He's 7 amber ahead of KiP. I'm interested to see how KiP's response here is going to be. So Pestrian Blow, deal 1 damage and enrage him. J-Vinder comes down but can't be reached. Hugger Mother does capture 1, and that's it. That's going to allow Grishhammer to get the first key. So we see interesting. What's it called? Ghost Lock come down, and of course that does allow Onyx Knight to reap, even though he's enraged because it's a deliberate reap action. And then we see Kangafrank come down. We see a interesting Saurian hand at the top, but look at that. Just the quantity of the board presence completely from Uglug here is what's going to take it away. So we have Stiltkin, first of all, Kane Structure 1 Stiltkin, and we put, what do we put onto? Kirby's Blaster onto Huggermother. Curious. And the other Kirby's Blaster onto J-Vinder. Interesting idea. So that gets Uglug onto 7 on check. We see Imperial Scutum come down with a whole load of Saurian as well. But Chanto Hubris is in play as well. But that's not going to stop Uglug getting his first key and doesn't get Grishhammer onto check or anything. So that's going to be a tough position. Now this is a good broken turn, I imagine. Ragnarok comes down plus Blood Money. Blood Money, of course, is 2 amber 1 for an opposing creature. And then we're going to see everything battling into everything the way Brokener does love. No, I take that back. We see a lot of reaping. No, we are saying so. Shulkin fights him, gets up to check again. No board presence at all. What is Grishhammer going to do? What's going to be a Saurian turn to capture 1, and Legita's Raptor to come down. Now we have a Shadow's turn, so this will be a Cecil Chain. It's going to be interesting. Rig Lottery. So that's 9 amber to 0, but 2 keys to Grishhammer. Can Grishhammer get the 3rd key? He's not much of a turn there, I'll be honest. That's but the rest of his cards kind of gives the impression that he needs to wait a response. So then we see, what's it called, coming out? Warstaff, Ice Staff. Rustnora removes its stun. Papi Jaeger comes in to give Rustnora's skirmish. Bramble Lynx comes in, allowing him to reap again. Gets 2. Spike Track comes in, but he is on 5 amber, so he's going to probably get to check this turn. No, he's not going to get to check this turn. So what's Grishhammer going to do at this point? He can get rid of Spike Track, which wouldn't be a terrible idea, by fighting first and using his own ability to destroy an archive. There we go. Destroy an artifact. There we go. Then we have not much of a turn there, but this is going to be a Star Alliance turn, and I think then that will be game. But let's see what comes down. So Meta Imran comes down to Hill 3, Galactic Centers come down to Game 1, Chief Engineer Walls comes in to retrieve an upgrade, getting into check with what, 2 spare. Moving on the active side to the other one, Ease on the Fringes comes down, we start discarding cards in order to allow to get them off check. Ooh, so I didn't see that coming. I didn't think he had quite enough, but yeah, he has. So he's on. Grishhammer is now on check, 6-4 to Uglug's. What's Uglug's response going to be? How's he going to get him off check? J-Vinder steals 1. There goes the check. Pestrian Blow comes in to deal 1 damage to Rustnora. Hit and run, deal 2 damage to Bramble Lynx. Huggermother to reap with Huggermother for the 1, getting him to 9. How's he going to do this with that hand? Well, I said he could do it last time. I think he can't do it this time either, but let's see what comes through. Giant Norval comes in, Ghost Talk comes in. I mean, he's got the Amber, but he can't take the Amber off the opponent. That's it, that's game. That's 3-0 to KiP. Great game. So, that's a great game. Thanks, Brett, for putting that recording together. Sorry, the titles were wrong. Sorry, I didn't unmute for the first game. I thought I was doing quite well at that point. But it's great to see. I mean, as they said, these are some amazingly powerful decks for some really low SAS decks. And it's just awesome to see the variety. And that's one of the things I love the way we do code, is the variety always seems to be there. Now, we're only going to quickly, for the last couple of things, go through the current standings for the three tables and talk through the tables we have here. So let's get started on that. So what we have here is the current top cut table. The top cut table where we've gone from top 32 all the way up to the final here, and here you can see KiP versus Hamburger Lanterns 1. Hamburger Lanterns 1 have won Coat 6. KiP have made top 4 in Coat 7 but didn't quite make the finals. Now if we look at the route KiP came, they beat KiP's Granada, Team Mavericks Hong Kong, the only two-time team winner we currently have. KiFrogs, who went from winning Coat 5 in Coat 7 to, let's be clear, top 8 and knocked out by one of the finalists. They were playing bloody well. Then we saw the game, we saw play KiP versus Midwest Amber, 3-0 to KiP. 3 great games. They were a lot closer than I think the score lets you believe. And then we have KiP versus Hamburger Lanterns in the final. Now Hamburger Lanterns, on the other hand, they beat the Russian Smiths. Now bear in mind, the Hamburger Lanterns were the 4th place team in their group, so they had to play a playoff. Then they come in and they played the Russian Smiths, who hadn't lost a game, I don't think, at this point, and they won 2-0. Third game was cancelled. They then played Invidious Gleeful Nephews, who were the team that knocked out Coots with Aurora. They won 2-1 there. They then knocked out our highest scoring Italian team, Better Call Cota. Better Call Cota are an awesome team. Really strong, but Hamburger Lanterns still beat them 2-0. Hamburger Lanterns then came on to the AC Regulars, winner of the AC Regulars side pot. So does that mean they keep the disc kit they had on prizes? I'll let them argue that out for themselves. And then they come on to Hamburger Lanterns 1. And now at this point, before, Justice Blind made it very clear that the top cut for Coat 7 was the hardest he's ever seen. I wonder what he'd say this time if he was here, because given the fact that he's now in the final, I'm sure he's going to say it's an even harder top cut than any event that he's seen before. So let's move on to the second cut. So here we have No Canifans in Austria and KiPforge Fridays in the final. We have No Canifans in Austria, who beat Beerforge 3-0. Then they beat Hypno KiPforge because we had to drop, unfortunately. So they knocked me out, so I could say I would have been in the final, but hey. They then beat the South Wales Necklifters 2-1. The Final Swindle 3-0, and now they're in the final. KiPforge Fridays, on the other hand, 3 Witches 3-0. Another awesome team. They beat Crucial University 3-0. They beat Alpha Pendula 3-0. They beat Baguette and Twitch 2-0. So it's going to be a very interesting final here. I mean, the finals always will be good, but this one in particular. And as we jump onto the third bracket, we have Wild Wormhole here versus Coast to Coast. Now, Coast to Coast knocked off SCS Sharks this week. They knocked off HKB, which is an awesomely fun team to play because they're in my group. I found the ball. Then they beat Monkeys AFK, and then they had the bye in the first round. Well, Wild Wormhole had a bye in the first round. They beat Forge of Recorder, and then they essentially Temples of Sanctum was a bye because no results were played. They then beat Easier from the Bottom Up because Easier from the Bottom Up never played the previous match. So the Wild Wormholes haven't had a difficult chance from top 16 to the final here by the luck of the other teams not playing. But it's, again, Wild Wormhole versus Coast to Coast. Look forward to seeing the results to this one as well. And that's all we have for this week. So, a few things to point out. You've got 3 weeks minus a day to sign up for Coat 9. We will not have a coach show next week. The quiz will be in 2 weeks' time. Brett's just corrected me on that one. Get ready with your complicated questions. It should be a fun one. We have Coat 8.5. Sign up for that as well. All the sign-ups are available in Discord. That will be running over 2 Saturdays. I'll be running one of them. I'm unsure about the second one right now. I'll probably be running both of them. But that should be a lot of fun as well, where we're trying this auction idea and want to try and introduce coaching to see how people find it. But that's all we have for this week. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Thank you.